Are you that famous photographer? Are you here for a shoot today? The woman in front of me stared at me excitedly. I met her on the beach, and she seemed to know I'm a photographer. Even though she was playing in the sand with her family of 3, she listened to my story with interest. I recall my early days as a photographer, when I couldn't convince anyone I was a professional, and no one would agree to be interviewed. It's a poignant memory. When I tell her I'm here for a shoot, she volunteers to be the subject, barely hiding her excitement. "Oh, but could you please not show my child's face?" she said, pointing to a cute little girl. The girl, about 2 or 3 years old, was looking at us. "Of course, what about the father?" I asked. The father turned pale and gave vague responses. I guess that's inevitable, because the father, building the sandcastle with the girl, is my husband. My name is Ava. I'm a 30-year-old freelance photographer. My work often involves covering local school events and weddings. I capture moments of smiles and friendship, conveying them through my photos. It's not just about taking pictures, but also about shaping people's memories and emotions, sharing their joy. Capturing these varied moments of happiness is both my job and my passion. But there was an event that stopped my life shudder in an instant. My husband, Robert, was a busy businessman. Involved in developing leisure facilities and tourist spots, he was constantly traveling across the country. Despite our busy schedules, the time we spent together was always special. Even brief moments with him, his smiles, they sustained me. I never planned to quit photography. We promised to support each other's careers when we got married. I started looking for ways to work from home, pivoting from outdoor shoots. First, I began sharing landscape and authorized portraits on social media as part of my portfolio, posting my work in virtual galleries like online photo stores. It wasn't just photo publishers and peers who noticed, but also regular users. This led to a rapid increase in followers. With live streaming available on social media, I started hosting talk shows and discussions about my photographs, generating income. Sharing my photos while talking about the stories and techniques behind them. Communicating through photography was fun and fulfilling. My social media engagement grew, as much as my outdoor shooting opportunities. Robert was still constantly on business trips. I ended up spending more time with my in-laws, who thankfully took an interest in my social media activities. I got closer to them while teaching them about smartphones and social media. They often watched my photos and live streams. They're both great people, making me feel less lonely during my husband's trips, leading to fulfilling days. However, we don't have children. Despite many tests, we just couldn't conceive. Both of us wanted kids, so not having them after several years of marriage strained our relationship. Initially supportive, Robert grew tired of the lengthy treatments, and I could feel us drifting apart. Just when his project reached a crucial phase, he started traveling more, sometimes not returning for 3 or 4 days. His focus shifted from our uncertain treatments to his challenging work. His interest in having children faded. His concerns for me dwindled, replaced by constant talk about work. Feeling lonely, I tried to understand his busyness. But no matter how understanding we weren't emotionally close. Just yesterday, he had a meeting with a client, and it seems a new project is starting. "I'll probably be away for a while, starting next week," he said, pulling shirts and other laundry from his large suitcase. He had just returned home, but I hurried to do the laundry. If it's not done, Robert won't bother with dry cleaning. He'll just buy new shirts. "It's faster and less risky," he says, but I prefer to save where I can. "So what about the hospital?" "It's impossible. Don't we need to go there directly? I can't leave work, and next week is just not going to work for me." I sighed softly, making sure my husband couldn't hear. I had made an appointment at the hospital, but if he said he was going on a business trip, there was nothing I could do. I didn't want to inconvenience his company or interfere with his work, which was being appreciated. I don't want to be a bother. "Well, it's tough being busy, isn't it? Ava, you're often out for photo shoots too. Let's both do our best at work." "Yeah, take care of yourself too, Robert." I was turned down quickly, but I held back. Maybe Robert no longer wants children, but I was scared to ask. I wonder if I should just silently accept it or try to bring it up indirectly. I'm good at capturing people's joy and sorrow through my camera, but I seemed to overlook my own feelings. I felt like I was getting trapped in the frames of my photos. One day, a white envelope with a luxurious feel and the logo of a famous resort company arrived at our house. It didn't seem like ordinary direct mail, so I hastily opened it. Inside was a voucher for a stay at a luxury hotel by the sea, apparently for 3 people. I wondered why it was sent to me. I approached my husband. "Robert, this arrived. Do you know anything about it?" I wasn't accusing or being sarcastic. I tried to ask naturally and carefully. Robert stopped reading his newspaper and looked at me. He was expressionless, but his gaze hardened slightly, almost glaring. I had never been looked at like that, and it made me sad. "Oh, that. A colleague couldn't make it, so I booked it instead. It's nothing weird. Just give it back to me." He reached out his hand. I handed over the envelope and tickets without saying a word. Robert took them, almost snatching them away. But when he saw the address, he looked at me, clearly annoyed. "This is addressed to me. Don't open my mail without asking." I apologized hurriedly. My husband, being in sales, receives various DMs as greetings. Those that arrive at home, I usually discard casually, so I was surprised to upset him. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it was direct mail. Just checking." "I'm here today. You could have asked." Robert took the envelope and went back to his room. I couldn't pursue the matter of the tickets any further. I wasn't quite convinced why he had to book tickets for a colleague, but I had no choice but to accept his explanation. However, less than half a month later, another change occurred. It was April, just before a long weekend. There was supposed to be a memorial service at my in-laws, but suddenly he said he had a long business trip. I was initially speechless. A business trip? Over the long weekend? In my line of work, I often get requests from families or for landscape photos. But there was a memorial service, so I had taken the time off. Not just freelancers, but generally companies are off during long weekends. Robert's company usually takes holidays too. Robert forced a smile, seemingly evasive. "It was a sudden decision. Had to be done. I have to work over the holiday. So, can you attend the memorial service for me?" I know he takes pride in his work and has been serious about his career since before our marriage. But at times, his excuses of work or business trips bothered me, and he ended up leaving with his favorite suitcase. It was a last-minute notice to my in-laws. They were angry at his behavior, but tried not to make me feel uncomfortable. "I'm sorry we opened up our schedule for nothing. I'll talk to Robert next time I see him," said my mother-in-law, Olivia, but all I could do was give a vague smile. I was supposed to stay for a few days after the service. Robert is their only child, and they didn't want me to go back so soon, so I ended up staying as planned till after the holiday. I spent my days doing housework and living a normal life, carrying my camera with me. I planned shoots with my in-laws and landscapes that I usually don't focus on, but somewhere in my heart, I felt a loss, missing the time that should have been spent with Robert. I decided to go to the beach one station away for work and a change of pace. During the long holiday, the beach was bustling with families enjoying the sea. Some opened colorful beach parasols, enjoying walks and sunbathing. I walked along the beach with my camera raised. Suddenly, a familiar voice made me stop. It was a family building a sandcastle. I was glad I wasn't holding my camera. If I had seen that scene, I couldn't have kept from dropping something. In the circle was Robert, my husband. He was with a young woman and a toddler, surrounding a sandcastle. They looked like a happy family, gathering white sand and seashells. I couldn't believe it. If I was on assignment, I would have snapped countless photos of this perfect family scene. But I couldn't believe my own husband was there. The toddler seemed about 2 or 3. Around the time I started feeling distant from Robert, he already had another family. I wasn't sure if the child was his, but a wife's intuition told me they were related by blood. I took the plunge and called out. I bravely approached, not Robert, but the woman. The woman wearing a large hat was startled by my sudden approach. I managed to smile and apologize for speaking out of the blue. Then, I handed her my business card, explaining I was a freelance photographer. The card only had my professional name and SNS contact. She looked at it with interest and started searching me up on her smartphone. Across from her, Robert, who had definitely noticed me, was staring frozenly at a point on the beach. "Would you mind if I took a photo of your family? I sometimes do live broadcasts, teaching photography tips." "Wait, you're Ava. I know, I follow you. You post tips on smartphone photography, right?" She was excited to be approached by a minor celebrity on SNS, unaware of my situation. Surprised she was a follower, I saw an opportunity, not just for photos, but even a live broadcast. When I suggested it, she eagerly agreed before I even finished. "Of course!" And there was a lot of excitement. I felt guilty for deceiving her, but my goal was to somehow document Robert's other family. "Please teach Mom's photography techniques, right, Robert?" Robert was panicking, desperately avoiding looking at me, and thinking of excuses.
"Maybe we shouldn't, showing our faces and all."
"I'm a model for brochures. Oh, could you just not show the child?" I later learned the woman, Lily, was a model he met through his company's PR department. I agreed, carefully adjusting my smartphone camera to keep the child out of the frame. I set up for live streaming, teaching the mother under the guise of a tutorial. The child was out of frame, leaving Robert as the center of the screen. His strained smile was positively received by the viewers, quickly spreading as cute, nervous dad. After ending the live stream, I thanked them and left. But within 10 minutes, Robert caught up and stopped me. He had left the child behind. I asked him plainly, "What are you thinking?" He was silent, probably too awkward with Lily, and ran to me instead. What was he planning by stopping me?
"Ava, understand."
"No explanations. And you want me to understand? Well, I saw enough."
"It couldn't be helped. I had a child with her before you. It's okay. Lily's family is wealthy. She said we don't need to register the marriage."
Robert defiantly confessed the truth. I couldn't believe a young woman with a child would say such convenient things. Lily must have realized he was married.
"I wanted a child. You couldn't have one. Lily is kind, and her child is so cute, just like her. But I don't hate you or dislike living with you."
He started to ramble incoherently. It seems he wanted to continue living as things were.
"You won't be troubled. For me, this situation is perfect. Isn't this good enough?"
It wasn't okay. It wasn't okay at all. I should have argued that, but I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't speak. Seeing me silent, my husband, perhaps feeling he had convinced me, looked somewhat triumphant and tried to leave. But then, unexpectedly, 2 people arrived. It was my in-laws, David and Olivia.
"Robert, who are that woman and child?"
David, red-faced with anger, demanded. Robert was startled by their sudden appearance. "I saw the live broadcast. Who's the woman and child you're with on your so-called long business trip? You didn't even come home." Olivia cut in protectively before David could stop her. I was shocked, too. They had seen the live broadcast and realized something was wrong. Stunned to see Robert with an unknown woman and child, they had hurried here by car. Confronted by his parents, he ended up revealing everything about his relationship with Lily and their child. Olivia slapped him, and David glared furiously. My in-laws decided to leave Robert there and take me home with them. Following their apologies and strong recommendation, I decided to get a divorce. I gathered evidence of Robert's affair with Lily and settled things for now by receiving a settlement from them. However, as I hired a lawyer and proceeded with the divorce investigation, more truths came to light. First, Lily knew Robert was married. Given she willingly had his child and said she didn't need to register the marriage, it seemed she was prepared for this affair. She wanted to keep Robert as long as possible, not just for money, but to avoid making their affair public. However, she genuinely didn't know I was his wife.
When she realized she followed me on SNS, she became furious and blocked me everywhere. But then, she started posting on various social networks, attracting sympathy towards me instead, as she was openly admitting to being the other woman. Having a child with a married man caused trouble in her family too. She was kicked out and, in desperation, tried to move into my former in-laws' home where I no longer lived. Naturally, my in-laws refused. As the investigation for the divorce settlement continued, numerous women and men started appearing around him. It turned out he had been having affairs with multiple partners during his business trips. Some of these affairs even involved engaged or married people. I decided to send a live broadcast data. A little investigation would show I was the wife broadcasting, and he was with his mistress and their child. As a result, women deceived into thinking he was single and husbands whose wives he stole became furious and confronted Robert. He ended up being sued from all directions, including by me, with no choice but to accept all of them. While the truth about him kept unfolding, Lily, incredibly, took the child and ran away. It was her choice to escape the situation with him. The uproar she caused on SNS settled, and her account disappeared, so I decided to let her go. But considering her nature of bragging about affairs on SNS, she wouldn't just disappear. True to my thoughts, Lily created an entirely new account. However, she repeatedly posted as a tragic heroine, was easily identified, and caused issues. She kept deleting her accounts when things got tough and creating new ones. Robert, abandoned even by Lily, tried to turn to his parents as a last resort. But learning he had numerous affairs, my in-laws became even more furious and decided to sever ties with their son. After the affair scandal, Robert ended up with a substantial divorce settlement. As the legal proceedings advanced, inquiries from his mistresses and their husbands started flooding his company, complicating matters further. And yet, that wasn't the worst outcome. The scandal of exposing an affair with a child on SNS was unprecedented. When it was revealed that this happened during a business trip, rumors spread rapidly, and the company's facilities and reviews were flooded with angry comments. The loss of trust spread both inside and outside the company, and the management team felt a crisis, hurrying to devise a communication strategy. Unaccustomed to such situations, they had to hastily consult experts. Meanwhile, they tried to provide accurate information to employees and desperately worked to contain the confusion. This turmoil led to numerous inquiries and condemnations from both inside and outside the company, and Robert's reputation plummeted rapidly. He became a pariah at work. The company soon desired his resignation, and Robert had to look for a new job. Originally competent with good sales records, he was liked by the older generation who didn't use SNS, so he quickly found another job. But within half a year, he caused new troubles, like getting involved with the manager's wife and trying to charge hotel expenses for personal reasons. He was fired, joined a new company, but got fired again for relationship issues, and this cycle repeated. Now he's constantly driven out and looking for new jobs. Meanwhile, I continued my relationship with my former in-laws after the divorce. They were considerate in every way, and I lived peaceful days. Ending my relationship with Robert and starting anew was possible thanks to their support. After the divorce, I struggled with photographing children for a while. Even though my in-laws were also betrayed by their son, they supported me. They helped me believe that my relationship with Robert wasn't everything about marriage. One day, I photographed them talking peacefully. I plan to feature this photo prominently in my next online photo exhibition. They were quite embarrassed, but I think they will be pleased in the end.